Joining us today is New York Times bestselling author Jennifer Bertman with her book, Sisterhood of Sleuths. Jennifer, what can readers expect when they pick up your book?
It's about a young girl named Maisie, and Maisie's going through a period of some changes in her life. Her brother's moving away to college, and she's having some friendship trouble with her best friend, Izzy. And she finds this kind of mysteriously abandoned box of vintage Nancy Drew books. And inside the box is a photo of what she thinks is her grandmother from years ago when she was younger. But when she shows this to her grandmother, she acts like she doesn't recognize the photo, has no memory of it. So all this is just very curious to Maisie. And she starts to read these old Nancy Drew books and just gets kind of sucked into the world of Nancy Drew and this mystery of the photo and the box of books and how it appeared. And so the story is really about her unraveling all of that.
You have a handful of mysteries under your belt already. When you're writing these stories, do you like to plot it out completely, or do you just have like an idea and an ending and just kind of wing it?
I wish I could say I plot it out completely. I would love to be able to write that way. I generally start out with an idea of a general character and a situation they would find themselves in. One of my books is The Alcatraz Escape. That one, I had the idea, it's a third in a series, so I already knew the characters that would be involved in it. But I had the idea for the mystery first. That's the only book I can think of where I kind of knew where I was going right from the start. But that's still, there was a lot of gray area in there that I'm figuring out as I go along. So I do a little bit of outlining to a point and then writing it. Outlining for me is sort of a way of like brainstorming ideas and generating ideas for where is this going, what could happen next.
This book is looked at as a middle grade book, but as an adult, I honestly enjoyed it. I think it had a lot to do with the friendships and interpersonal relationships and how complex they were. That was a surprise.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. You know, I'm always trying to keep at the forefront of my mind that my books are, marketed for, and I'm thinking of 8 to 12-year-old is kind of the general range. But I love reading middle grade as an adult, and I really want the book to work, all of my books to work on multiple levels. So it means a lot when the stories do resonate with adults. When I think about the Nancy Drew books and looking back on them, what I liked a lot was thinking about the friendships with Nancy and Bess and George, and that's kind of one of my strongest takeaways. So that was really something I was thinking about. It's part of why I threaded that strong theme of friendship throughout. As an adult, friendships are always something evolving in our lives. I didn't realize that when I was young. I had a sense at least that I would figure things out at some point in all aspects of being a grown-up. And it's been news to me that you continue to figure things out as you grow up. And so I just like weaving that in to the story.
Middle grade books and YA books, what's the difference?
Well, the age of the protagonist is kind of a basic. Typically, middle grade, you might have characters 10 to 12 usually. I think there's a real need for characters who are 13 or 14. That does exist, but there tends to be a little bit of a gap because YA, typically a character might be 16 and up. But so I think in thinking about that, at least for me as a writer, I'm really putting myself in the mindset of an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old character versus, a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old. So you're going to have different things, romance and relationships are very minor in my stories just because when I was 11 and 12 is pretty minor in my world. But when you're a teenager, that might be a more prominent theme that more people are interested in. And so I think it's just things like that, really thinking about the world of the main character where they're at.
So you go into writing thinking, oh, I'm writing a middle grade book versus, finishing your story and then coming back to say, what level is this at?
Yes. Yeah. I really think I'm really coming at it from my protagonist, and most of my ideas, for whatever reason, are in the middle grade age range. I don't really have ideas that are calling to me featuring teenagers or adults. So that might change at some point, but I typically am interested in writing stories about people, in their tween years and younger.
Can we expect a sequel to this book?
I don't know. At the moment, no, there's nothing in the works, but when I was writing this, I really enjoyed Maisie and her new friends that she makes in the story, Cam and Nell. And just in general, I had a lot of fun writing this book, and I can imagine them getting in other mysteries. And so I feel like there is potential there.
Well, if you do, I'd be excited to read it. Like I said, I enjoyed their friendships.
Thank you. That means a lot to know.
Well, Jennifer, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.